How are you? I've got a quick word from the Lord for the government concerning the health sector. I see that the vice president who is also the minister of health, is issuing a bill, working on a bill to pass in parliament that will prohibit health workers to participate in industrial action. Yes, that's the case. Well, that is a good move in the right direction because the health sector is important in the nation, and the Lord agrees with that. And he says, I must tell the vice president that these are the issues that you should focus on, and if you were to print money, this is the kind of place where if you're printing money towards, it would make prudential financial sense to print money that will go into that kind of critical sector like the health sector at the moment. And well, as I'm saying that, people will ask, if the government doesn't have money, where will it get that money to fund their activities? So that's why I'm saying that you can buy treasury bills, fully funded by the Reserve Bank, at a very low um, interest rate. It could even be 0% because you're not buying it from the private sector, but from the central bank, which you control and which control the fiscal policy of the nation. Uh, some might say that, uh, what if this government borrowing may lead into what do you call it, hyperinflation? Well, as long as you keep on increasing your monetary supply, and then it is on the other side balanced by an increase in output, you are not really doing something which is detrimental to the economy. Because now, even as we look at the modern monetary theory that economists are submitting these days, looking at the central banks around the world that are ever increasing in their expansionary monetary policies, which is basically printing more money. And the fears are that we might have hyperinflation, and the fears that the governments are borrowing too much, and they might never be able to repay their debt. Well, it is true that most governments will never be able to repay their debt, but it doesn't really matter. Expanding the the, the, the money supply in the economy doesn't actually mean that it is a bad thing, as long as there is production that backs it up. So you see, in the Zimbabwean context, if you if the government had to sell treasury bills to the Reserve Bank and use those balances to pay workers in the health sector, to pay for services in the health sector, you can just expand that to education sector as well. But then when you do that, you are uh, you are spending government revenue in pockets of the economy that will have real service, one, to the population and the economy. Number two, there will be some level of returns as well, right, back into the economy. Because if it is a health sector, it's a matter of national importance, even if there is no positive returns financially, but there is positive returns in the sense that there is a general health well-being in the nation. But uh, so and if you do that, you will understand that you will avoid things like nurses and doctors going on a strike because the government doesn't have money. And on such critical things, you know, expanding the government deficit, is prudent, and there's gains in the long term because you're making a real investment in the economy if you're investing it in the health sector because of these positive returns that I'm talking about. A healthy society also leads to a healthy production, productive society. So in the future, they will be able to return that money through taxes or whichever way in which the people return, whichever way in which the people will earn money within the economy. But if you cripple the health sector, you are inadvertently crippling the economy in so many other ways. So the government mustn't be afraid of borrowing money from the Reserve Bank, which is just creating new money. As long as that money that is created and invested in the economy is going to lead to a high production as well, especially for those things that are produced locally, things that do not need foreign currency. It does make monetary sense for you to even increase government borrowing, increase the money supply into the society as long as there is production that will back up that increased monetary supply. Now, the problem that the Zimbabwean government has been doing in the previous years is that when they increase the monetary supply or when they increase government borrowing, it is spent on expenses that do not necessarily increase any production in the economy, but it was mostly to keep the regime safe, basically. It was just to pay for wages that didn't have a direct kickback into the economy, except that wages were paid. And when wages were paid, that money was converted into foreign currency and also externalized, for for whatever thing that the police or maybe the soldiers and whoever the government was spending money on. So right now, what we need to do is for the government to borrow, create money, and spend local on local production. So in other ways, we're saying that through the health sector and other sectors, if you were to be creative enough, create government expenditure within the local economy, even using new money, even if it means that the government deficit is larger, as long as that new money creates production in the economy, in the local economy, you will at least boost the economy in one way or the other. And yeah, that is just one of those measures that are helpful, to avoid this kind of tough environment, this spiraling down to the bottom environment that we find ourselves in. So I was just looking at the health sector as the Lord said I must talk about. I'm not talking about other sectors as well, but I'm sure if you think creatively, you can find also other economies, other sectors where you will get the same kind of effect instead of creating money so that you will do activities that do not bring production or merely take that Zimbabwean dollar into foreign currency and externalizing it or keeping it under the cushion. So you want to create economic activity as a government. So therefore, it will be prudent, even to borrow, even if we do not have the money to borrow to create it, because at least the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has full control of its monetary policy, it can expand money supply, and therefore the message here is that the Reserve Bank must expand the money supply by borrowing to the government, and when the government gets that money, they are disciplined enough to spend it in targeted areas. As I said, that the health sector, a specific targeted area, because it has got direct positive impacts in the local economy, and it will lead to productive activities in the local economy to get the economy rolling. And also, health itself is a critical uh, need in any economy. So it would answer what the VP has been trying to grapple over, the fact that you do not want to destroy the health sector. Thank you very much.